Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today I've got an outstanding guest. This is a man that I have wanted to meet for quite a while because I've seen him serving our community, doing good things like giving kids free haircuts for back to school, giving out free shoes to people who need it, and just serving our community with class and enthusiasm. He's a local business owner. He's a father, a family man, and by all accounts, just a great guy. So with no further ado, I bring to you this week's guest, Teal Myers. Teal, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate you sharing your time with us today. I know you're really busy, especially this week with all the back to school cuts you've been giving away. You're probably eager to get back to work and make some money with some paid haircuts for a change. But I know you're busy, and I appreciate you being here. Why don't we kick things off with you just telling our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Okay. My name is Teal Myers. I'm 32 years of age. I'm a married man with 3 kids, 3 boys, business owner of a barbershop local in town, Ponchatoula. I'm a son, a brother, all that good stuff.
A lot of that I can relate to, but the one thing I noticed is you and your wife are outnumbered. Y'all have 3 kids. My wife, Brandy, and I just have 2 little boys. What's that like when you go from man-to-man coverage to zone coverage?
Man, it's all about being able to give each one their own quality time at this point. I'm still learning, but they love me and I love them, man. That's what it's all about.
Amen to that. I agree wholeheartedly. Well, tell us a little bit about your background, where you came from, where you grew up, and maybe a little bit of what it was like.
So I come up from Hammond, Louisiana.
We won't hold that against you. You got smart and crossed the creek.
Hey, we family, man.
Right.
So look, I come from Hammond. My parents, they kept us, me and my brother and sister, in church. So I'm a faith-based kid, man. So
I love to hear that. What church did you grow up in?
So I grew up in a church called Faith Temple, Church of God in Christ, and so I grew up there. And my mom, she's a preacher, and so it was a real strict home that I grew up in.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I grew up also wanting to play music. My mom surrounded me around the positive influences that I needed to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And, I picked up a church playing the piano, and the rest is history with that, man.
Oh, that's neat. Well, are you still playing music today as an adult? Tell us about that.
Yes, I am. I'm playing at a local church right now. The name of it is Showers of Blessings in Hammond.
Okay.
I just recently picked it up to help my friend out, and I still love it, man. It's like feeding my soul,
Yeah. No, I think that would be my wife's dream come true. If one of our little boys could learn the piano, she grew up in a small Baptist church outside of Independence, and they had a brilliant pianist when I started attending her church with her 10, 12 years ago. I was just blown away by his talent, for this itty bitty church with so few people. I mean, it was clearly God given. But that's neat. We've had guests on the show. James Gibbs come to mind. He's an incredibly talented local musician out of the Springfield area who married a high school classmate of mine. Like you, he got smart and, met a good girl and moved to Ponchatoula. But that's really neat. The church is such a great breeding ground for talented musicians to come together. So it's neat to hear. It sounds like that's a lifelong passion of yours that you're continuing with today. Well, between playing music and the creativity I've seen in photographs of different styles you've done online, you seem to be kind of an artist at heart. Is that right?
Rightfully on. I'm not so much as an artist with pen and paper, but expressing my soul out in the world, yes.
That's neat. Well, as a kid growing up in a strict faith-based house, mother is a preacher, but with 2 siblings, what was that like? I mean, are your siblings close to you in age? What'd y'all do for fun? What was life like in Hammond all those years ago?
We weren't close in age. I believe the gap is about 6 to 8 years between
Oh,
us.
wow. Yeah, that's a big
Yeah,
one.
so I was the little brother, the aggravating little brother.
I've got one of those. My aggravating little brother's not so little anymore. He's older than you. I think turns 40 this year, but we were 6 years apart. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I know you're at different points in life.
yeah,
He's
man.
still playing with toys when you're in high school or vice versa. So
Yeah,
that's neat. Well, let's bring us forward. So growing up, I assume you went to Hammond High School, or am I right there?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
what was that like? What were you into during the high school years?
So at that point, I was cutting hair. So let me
Really,
back
that
up.
young? That's
Yeah,
great.
yes, I'll back up. So when I was a kid, man, it had a barbershop around the corner from my house, and I would sneak down there every chance I can get, and I'll just stay up at the barbershop all day long, man. I'm talking about as soon as they open to the lights cut off, and
Wow.
I'll watch cut head after head. I'll fall in love with the process that they will use, and man, you will meet so many different people, every day from the barbershop, and I took that with me, and I practiced every day. I would cut kids' hair in the neighborhood, messing them up, and
That's great.
yeah, and so when I moved to high school, I would cut hair in the school, in the
Uh-huh.
bathroom. One time I almost got expelled, man, for cutting hair at school.
That's great. Oh man. It's great because it was almost. It didn't happen,
Yeah,
but
no, it didn't happen.
close
It
call.
didn't happen.
Wow. Well, so it sounds like you got started incredibly early. Do you remember the moment that it kind of clicked and you're like, this is what I want to do? I mean, was it a gradual thing from going to get your own haircut, or did you have a family member who did that, who drew you in? What's the story on how you got started that young?
Man, I remember my brother brought me to the barbershop, and I saw the guy that was cutting hair, and I had just seen him at the church that previous Sunday playing the piano.
Hmm.
And I was like, man, he's good at playing the piano and cutting hair. I want to be like him. So I didn't
And now
say
you
nothing.
are.
Yeah, yeah. So I went home and I called the barbershop. I didn't say nothing to him at the barbershop, but I went home and I called him and I was like, hey man, I want you to show me how to play the piano. I didn't say anything about cutting hair at the time. And
Right.
he just told me, just come sit up under me. I got you. And
That's cool.
that's how that went, man. And we linked, and he became a great mentor for me, and
Yeah.
piano and cutting hair.
And who was that mentor that helped you get started?
Reginald Matthews.
Okay.
Yes.
That's one of the things I love about our little community here in the Ponchatoula Hammond area is that we have folks that are not afraid to give to fellow members of the community, be it at
It's
church,
important,
on the
man.
ball
It's
field.
important.
Yeah, you're right. Barbershop. It's an area with so many folks. Folks in this community often don't have, say, a lot of material things to give. And they share what they do have, but man, they will give of themselves, their talent, their time, their
Yes.
energy, their attention. And of course, that stuff's way more important than all the things money can buy. Well, that's cool. So you get in the barbershop, it's what sounds like fairly young, of an intense interest in doing it. How do you go from kind of this hobby, amateur, cutting your friends' hair, as you said, messing them up to start learning, doing it at school, to eventually, becoming a profession? Do you start sweeping hair up? I mean, how do you go
Yeah.
from, an interest to a hobby to a job?
Um, I mean, they were pretty hands-on with me. They allowed me to cut hair in the shop with them. I
Hmm.
would shadow over their shoulder every day, and they'll allow me to mess kids' heads up in the shop, and they gave me the
Right.
opportunity to grow. Uh, and that happened over numerous of years, man. I can count for at least 10 years, my whole childhood, that they allowed me to do that, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. I think back, we were joking that I spent the most of the last week in an intense all day trial advocacy course at LSU, where I and a bunch of other lawyers and judges are teaching law students about how to conduct trials. And it dawned on me that 20 years ago, when I was a baby lawyer, somebody had to put their faith in me and let me be the first trial I ever did.
Yes, yes,
And their either money or freedom or, whatever. Their life essentially is on the line to an extent, and they put it in your hands when you have so little experience. But you need that. I mean, the greatest surgeon of all time, somebody had to be the first guy that he cut on, and it just takes this level of trust, and a haircut's no different. So we're very lucky to have that opportunity to kind of learn as we go and practice, because your profession, like mine, is a craft where you just get better and better with time and knowledge. And that's really cool. I want to let folks know here, Teal, that we have the ability, if you're watching us live here on Facebook, you have the ability to comment, and we can bring it onto the show, and I'll do my best to share it here. Miss Erica Hemphill here says that she absolutely loves everything this family stands for and your shop. She says, Teal, that you are amazing, and she loves your chats. So, Erica, thank you for watching the show. You see the big smile you brought to Teal's face. We appreciate
you, Erica.
We appreciate your comment. So share the love, and I will do my best to put it up here on the screen, as I've done with Erica. Another friend of the show here, Mark Verbois, who hosts the show when I'm out, a dear friend of mine, a teacher and coach at Ponchatoula High School, says that Teal and his staff have been selfless over the last few years for our students. The community is very appreciative. You guys at the Groomed Studio are community partners, and you make our area great. Mark, I agree wholeheartedly. Thank you for sharing that. Teal, let me ask you about that, because we're going to get into the great things that you're doing professionally with your colleagues at the Groomed Studio, because you've got a uniquely successful and wonderful barbershop there. You stylists, barbers, just doing great work. But why don't we, I know, this is back to school. My kids just started school yesterday, and, today was my first day picking them up in carpool. So I drove by this morning at the alligator cage and saw these other kids starting school today. Back to school is in the air, and you did something really incredible through your back to school extravaganza. You decided to go and cut as many heads of hair for students so they could have free back to school haircuts, I understand. Can you tell us about your back to school extravaganza and what went into that?
Yeah, well, I've been doing this before I had my own shop. So while I was working in another shop, I started it there. It's been going on for about 6 to 8 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, so, but every year it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. This is the biggest it's ever been this year. And I couldn't do it without my team. I have an awesome team, man. They took it to the chin and said, I'm with you, Teal. And I really appreciate them for that.
That's great. Now, you mentioned this year is bigger than ever. What do you mean by that? I know we're not talking about just a few haircuts or probably even a few dozen. How many people, were y'all able to serve this year?
We served over 200 kids.
Holy moly.
Monday and Wednesday.
That is amazing. I think back to school, especially high school, how you're just so self-conscious at that age. I was a particularly short kid, so I was really, worried about that. But you always want to go back to school looking as fresh as you can, So I can't imagine how much difference that made to a kid to walk into school for the first day of the year, see people they haven't seen all summer, and know that they're looking their very best. So 200 kids were able to do that because of you. That's really neat.
It was more so about when I was a kid, man, my mentor inspired me. So me offering those haircuts was not just about a haircut. It was more so to inspire a kid to want to be excellent, be their best, go back to school feeling great. It definitely wasn't just about a haircut.
Yeah, and that's one of the neat things about what you do is you're not just supplying the haircut, but a haircut is so personal. You are in that person's space. You're conversing with them. You can't help but have a real relationship with your barber. If you're with anybody for any time, I think of my barber, Matt. I know about his kids. He knows about mine. Heck, he cuts my son's hair, so he knows them well. But so when you bring these kids in, like your mentor did for you so many years ago, you're getting to show them leading by example. You're getting to talk to them, answer questions if they've got them. I mean, is that part of what you're getting at there? I mean, it just seems like as a community, especially as a 32-year-old Black man, you are giving kids in your community that may or may not have, a dad at home like you have, somebody to talk to and go to. I mean, is that part of
I
the mix?
understand that the free concept, it will bring a different crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I know that some kids aren't fortunate enough, like my kids, to have both parents in the home.
That's a great point.
So I try to be a light to them in whatever area that they may need, because I've done a lot, I've seen a lot, I may know someone in that area that they need, So I just try to be a positive light, man, in any way, shape, or form.
Well, look, you're shining bright, and we didn't know each other till a few minutes before we went on the air here, but I've heard so many great things about you. I've seen so many wonderful things you do through social media, and I mean, keep it up, man. That's just great work, and I applaud you for it. I thank you for it. Our community needs it now more than ever. We've got another commenter here. I cannot see the name of this commenter, so forgive me for not reading your name. As I read it, it just says Facebook user. That might be due to privacy settings, but it says, oh, this might be your wife, Teal. My husband, Teal, has inspired me and others by being so selfless. Thank you for being a light every day. Well, that's great. The difference between you and me, Teal, is your wife is watching this show right now. I don't think there's any chance mine is. She's probably
she'll catch you later, man. She's proud of the kids.
Well, let's talk about that. The support of a good woman is invaluable. And like you, I'm running a small business here in Ponchatoula, so I know about the unique challenges of needing to pay for rent or a mortgage and paying your staff, and there are many headaches that go into it. I could not in a million years succeed here in my law firm if not for Brandy Bruno Layrisson, who's supporting me every step of the way. I'm guessing from that message I just read from your wife, you've got a similar experience. Is that right?
Indeed.
Why don't you tell me about your wife, maybe how y'all met, fell in love? You've kind of given me the preview of this love story that results in 3 kids, but tell me about how y'all met and about her.
So we've met over I'm gonna say 13 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So at that time I was playing at the local church, Beacon Light of Hammond.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the musician there, and I was the head musician there. And in between services, I was standing in the hallway, and she was standing in the hallway having a conversation with another lady. And she was so beautiful, man. I had to, talk to her. So
your
some
face
type
is
of way I had to
up
slide
as
some
you're
type
back
of
about
coming
this.
in.
This is neat.
I had to slide some type of coming in, and she kind of brushed me off. And I found her on Facebook, and I sent her a message, and she replied to me 2 days later, man. It was heartbreaking. I thought she wasn't going to bite, but she bit.
Hey, I'm with you. Thank God for Facebook. I met my wife at the Strawberry Festival 12 years ago. And like you, followed up virtually immediately on Facebook. It took a little while for us to get that first date going. But if not for social media, I don't know that I could have made it happen. And so sounds like you're in the same boat. Is she from the area, Hammond, Ponchatoula? Where she grow up?
She's from Houma, Louisiana.
Houma, the Terrebonne Parish. Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
My first job, I worked for a judge from Houma years ago. He's a wonderful man, and I like it down there. One of our best and brightest Ponchatoula's ever created, at least in the legal community, Robert Landry, now lives down there and practices law down there. So I get all my Houma information from him. I guess she came up here, y'all met. How long before things got serious? I mean, obviously you have 3 kids, but can you tell us just a little bit about how that developed?
Yeah, so I wasn't looking for anything serious, and I'm sure she wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, you were 19 years old at the time, it sounds like.
Yeah, so, we had a conversation, man, and we are both eager people,
Mm-hmm.
And from conversation, we both knew that maybe this can lead to something, and speed time up, we've manifested almost everything from that conversation, man, that first conversation.
Wow, that's really cool. What, at this point, you've been, with your wife for 13 years. Y'all have 3 wonderful children, successful business, serving the community, churches, etc. If you could look back to some other fortunate 19-year-old, maybe a young man who, like you, met an incredible woman, and even though he's not expecting something serious, might be stumbling into something special. What kind of advice would you give to a young man like that? You know, when you think back, because look, let's face it, relationships are hard, and I can look at my 12 years with my wife and know it's been the best thing that ever happened to me without a doubt, but it has been imperfect. It has been difficult. It has been challenging. And so I look back and think I wish I'd have done this differently. I'm so glad I did this, you know, et cetera. What advice would you give to somebody who's young, you know, and finding love and not knowing what the future holds, you know, that you feel like you would have or could have benefited from had you heard it at 19 years old, all those years ago?
Um, Number one is I would tell him to keep positive influences in front of him. People
Great
that have
point.
already succeeded in marriage or relationships. That's important. You know, my mom and dad always tell me that birds of a feather flock together. So you don't want to hang around someone that's single at that point. You're trying to, you know, make something serious. But I'll just tell them definitely find someone to mentor him in that area. I'll tell him,
It's really good advice.
yeah, I'll definitely tell him to follow the heart. You know, the heart will never lead you wrong.
Yeah, you're right about that. Well, your heart led you in the right direction, and it led you into fatherhood. So
Indeed.
let's cover that a little bit, if you don't mind. I think you mentioned you have 3 children. Tell us about that journey, about your kids, and what you've learned along the way there.
Man, I have 3 kids, man. I have a 9-year-old, well, 8-year-old, he turns 9 August
Okay.
18th.
Mm-hmm.
A 4-year-old that turns 5 August 29th. And I have a newborn that's 4 months. My firstborn,
Y'all are busy.
yeah, we're very busy. We're very busy.
Yeah.
My firstborn, man, he changed my life. I was always a hardworking guy, but when he was born, like it something clicked in my brain, man. Like you gotta get
Yeah.
it. You know,
Isn't it amazing how they light a fire under you? I mean,
indeed.
the day before you know, you need to work, but you don't need to work like you do once you have that mouth to feed.
All right. Yeah. Man, he basically made me. He made me become the man I needed to become.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
It's like God knows exactly what you need when you need it, and
Indeed.
and He
Indeed.
places it in your life.
So
Um,
at this
so
point, man,
what's he into now? You know, what's an 8? Because my oldest is 6. I've 6-year-old and 4-year-old boys, so I don't know what they're going to be into in a few years. What's an 8 soon to be 9-year-old into?
man, he's keeping me young. He lets me know what all the new music is and the new
Yeah,
slang and the new dances, and you know, he's very intelligent, very smart guy, man. He can hold a conversation, you know. And I'm just raising him to be a man, you know, like because it's not promised that I'll be here tomorrow, you know. So I
right.
try to leave as many jewels with him as I possibly can. But he's a character, man.
Yeah. Now, and your 4-year-old, I got a 4-year-old, and that's my mischief maker of the two. Seems to me like it's often true that the second child is, you know, a little bit more of a risk taker than the first. Has that been your experience, or what's your 4-year-old like?
No, my firstborn, he's definitely a risk taker.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. My secondborn, he's a very charming, charismatic person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's very calm and chill. He observes everything before he indulges in it. So they were complete opposites.
Yeah, sounds like a thinker there. You got a doer
Yeah.
and then a thinker. And what about that baby? I know the personality at that age is not as well evolved, but I'm sure you're wrapped around that little finger.
I can see a little bit of my first son in him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's feisty, man. He cries and kicks and screams.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like our community, we got our hands full with those Myers boys. They're gonna be around here doing good things.
Indeed.
Well, tell me this. You know, you have mentioned several mentors in your life through folks that brought you into playing music, into the church, you know, into the barbershop, etc. You seem to me like a very strong mentor type. Tell me about that if I'm right. Correct me if I'm wrong. But tell me, what's mentorship mean to you? And if you can, give me some examples on places where you do that, whether it's the church or the piano or the barbershop. You seem to be a leader of men and possibly, women too. But, tell me about that, because you seem like a guy who might take that role seriously.
I do, man. My dad, he played a big part in it, man. He always
Tell us
told
about
me,
him. What was he like?
my dad, he was a very strict dad, loving but very strict.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't play any games. He didn't tolerate any foolishness. Uh, Told me what it meant to be a man, you know.
Right.
But basically, my dad taught me that a man's walk is everything. You know, your daily walk is enough for someone to see how to live. You know, so I try to do that every day on purpose
Mm-hmm.
for
That's
to
great.
be a mentor. You don't know who's watching,
Right.
so I just try to be on my P's and Q's every day.
Mm-hmm. Well, you seem to really enjoy your work. You've been at it your whole life, basically. I mean, when you mentioned you met your wife at 19, I was thinking two things at one time. One was, wow, that's young to meet the love of your life, and get started on that road. But two, at 19, you were probably in your second decade as a barber. um, so, tell me about that. Is it still something, now at 32 years of age, do you still have the passion for it? Do you think this is something you do forever? Would you do this if you won the lottery and didn't need to make a living the next day? Or, are things waning? Tell us about that.
I believe I'll always cut hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as the passion, it's being delegated in another area right now. As far as business, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm becoming more of a businessman versus just a barber. You know, I have plans to goals rather to open many groom studios, to franchise it out, to grow it big. You know, and that's that's
Well,
that's
I
my
would
goal.
love to hear about that because I think it's a perfect time for us to get into the Groomed Studio. Your business is eye catching on many levels. In the real world, physically, in the social world, virtually. Yeah, I'm looking. Your shirt right there. You've got this really cool logo. With the old straight razor in it. Your hat. I've really admired from afar the things that you do. I know you've got say, for example, Facebook, which is the platform we're on right now as we're talking. You've got a really big following, thousands of people like and or follow your page. You guys do great videos. When you do, I mean, there's just a million positive things to say about everything from the photography to the content to the work that's the backbone of all of that's being photographed or videoed or whatever. So, tell us about your business acumen and plans because I love to hear this plan to expand. A man with three sons, may be lucky enough to have one, two, or three of them follow you out into the business world, maybe into the barbershop, et cetera. If not, certainly many of these young folks that you mentor and bring up as young barbers too, could follow you there. What are your plans? Tell us more if you don't mind.
So me and my wife, man, we are business partners. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
she handles all of my social content for Facebook,
So I've been
Instagram.
singing her praises without knowing it. Yeah, she's on her game.
Yeah,
She's great.
she's awesome, man. She owns Alliance Marketing Company.
Okay.
She does branding for many companies around and businesses around. And man, without her, man, I probably wouldn't stick out. So I'm very thankful for her. And
Well, yeah, y'all make a good team.
yeah.
So do you have the areas that you would like to expand into yet kind of picked or in mind, or is that something you're still batting around a little
I'm
bit?
still working that out. My team is important to me right now. So if
Mm-hmm.
I can get a solid team in the Ponchatoula location, I would be comfortable enough to move on to the next location.
Yeah. Well, I wish you luck in that. That's something we've done here in my office. And frankly, candidly, with mixed results. We currently have two offices that are active here in Ponchatoula and Hammond. We have one in Slidell that's in development. And, in the past, I've had them in Baton Rouge and New Orleans. And I love, how you talk about the team being an essential element of that. Because what I've learned is when you have a strong, say lawyer from Hammond, you can have a strong Hammond office, right? And so that's kind of been my history. Now that I no longer employ, yeah, you're right. I mean, and so I wish you luck in that, and it really does. It does help you spread your wings, build a bigger empire if that's what you're interested in, and help more people. Because in business, the more people that we are able to employ and support, the more we can share good things with the world, whether it's the ability to provide for families, health benefits, whatever. And so that's really neat. That's great to hear. What else would you like to share with our listeners? I mean, you seem to be a really talented guy, a very interesting guy. What would you like to talk about? Whether we're talking about business, personal interest, fun, whatever, you name it, go for it. What's on your mind?
And I'm very tired today, man. Today was very taxing.
Why
Man,
so?
we, I have two new team members on my team, and I'm helping delegate clients, between the two, and
Right.
handling my clients and running the shop. It can be very taxing, but
I bet. Well, if you hadn't mentioned that, I would have never guessed that. You're not a guy that wears a tired feeling on your face. You didn't seem tired at all. That brings up a topic I'd like to ask you about. Because with any profession, with any job, with any business, there are good days and bad days, easy days and really tough days. And so I kind of would love to ask you about what are the big challenges you face. And I'm going to ask this question two ways, but first, barbershop specifically, in a little while we can ask about the challenges of business ownership, and we can get into what you and your wife do to take that on. But the specifics of a barbershop, what are some challenges that you would have in your business tomorrow, possibly, that I would not have here in a law firm, and our friend up the road with a restaurant wouldn't have? What's kind of unique to the barber world in terms of challenges day in, day out?
Man, you meet different people every day.
That's a good point.
People come in with different personalities. With some people they can be having a bad day and they'll let you know. And
yeah, right.
You just got to know how to delegate the situation. You got to be professional at all times. That's how I see it. I try to be professional at all times, and customer service is everything for me.
Yeah. Now, what about that's when you see people, what about on the reward side of thing? What are some really cool aspects of being a barber that maybe other businesses don't have?
Man, you get to lighten people's day up, man, giving them a fresh cut. Man, there's no other feeling like that. Seeing someone smiling once they turn around to the mirror and see what you've done, or making them feel good, that's priceless.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet, when you were young, you mentioned, the growing pains of messing people's hair up. That's a different turn to the mirror. But at this point, you're basically a master craftsman, and, it's like a magic wand. The razor, the clippers, there might be like magic wands in your hand, and you're able to basically always have people leaving there looking better than they came. And that probably translates into feeling better than they came. And I would imagine that's incredibly rewarding.
Yes.
That's cool, man. Well, what do you think, in terms of young barbers or aspiring barbers, what advice would you have them there? What's that career path, like? I mean, you had a unique experience in that you started so young. But if we're talking about young men, young women who want to be stylists, just anybody out there that wants to get into your profession, what's the way to do that, and what advice would you give to them?
I would tell them to hone in on learning their craft in and out, all the way through. That's important, man, because you never know who's coming through the door and what you might have to do to service them. So I would tell them to learn their craft all the way through.
That's great advice. Well, folks, Teal Myers is tired. He has given us plenty of time and tons of great info here today. And Teal, for that, we're very thankful. I know you're a busy man. I know that, you could be anywhere else in the world. You could have your head on that pillow, get the rest you need. You could be hugging those little kids and kissing your beautiful wife, whatever. But you chose to spend this afternoon with the Ponchatoula Live viewers, listeners, and myself. And for that, I'm grateful. Before we go, is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers before we close for the day?
Yeah, if you ever need a fresh haircut or any type of service dealing with barbershops, come to the Groomed Studio. We are an elite service grooming studio. Come holler at us. Downtown Ponchatoula, 230 West Pine Street.
Absolutely. And folks, what I'll try to do is put the link to the Groomed Studio Facebook page or website. They've got great digital in every direction so that you can get more information about it, because Teal is absolutely right. You'll see when you see the photos on those sites what great work they do. So Teal, thank you for your time. It's been a real pleasure getting to know you today. And to our viewers, thank you for tuning in. We will see you next week here on Ponchatoula Live. Bye-bye.